Yeah, we got a waffle. We definitely got a waffle. Hey everybody, welcome to the Man Alone Solo RPG channel. A little bit of a quick video. Despair not if you're waiting for me to release the Pendragon video that I talked about last night. It is on its way. Episode 2 of my 5-year campaign is going to come after this one tonight. I'm feeling well rested. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm feeling like I'm going to be up all night long while everyone else is sleeping. I'm going to be making these videos, sitting in a room alone, talking to myself. Nothing better on a Friday night. And due to a confluence of, minor events, I just wanted to put out a quick video in advance of that playthrough because two things happened. Number one, I suddenly remembered that I ordered Table Fables some time ago. This is by Madeline Hale. And it's a collection of tables for the weary game master, but it is, as Daniel from Dungeon Dive would say, like sort of the thing on every solo role player's table side. It's just one of those books. Do you need this book? No, but just it happens that a lot of us have it. And I was like, oh yeah, I ordered that some time ago. And you know how if you order something from Amazon, sometimes it gets caught in like delivery hell? That was the case with this, and so it was quickly corrected. And this is just like one of those books that, as a solo player, it's like almost if I were to do a montage scene where I'm getting ready to solo play, it would be like this. I'd be like loading it into my suitcase. I would have like my 4 or 5 of my fate mills like as like grenades on my belt. And the second thing is that last night I heard from a really cool person from, Laughing Kaiju. And I believe that this person is the creator of the Zone RPG. And I'll put a link to that below. And I'll also be doing a video on it because this is a card-based narrative RPG that just like looks like an absolutely gorgeous box set. And Raf was kind enough to send out to me a review copy. And interestingly, and this is kind of why I love this hobby, in his email to me saying, hey, no problem, I'll send one out, was like, would you mind telling me what you've learned from the playing solo RPGs and creating them and reviewing them, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was like, oh, that's a great question. And I know that I had a sort of inchoate sense of what I love about solo RPG, but I don't think that I've articulated it, at least in the last like month. I think it is something that I really enjoy talking about. And I've talked about, I think I made videos about what I enjoy about the hobby. But now this question really was squished my mind grapes to say, what have I learned? I thought that was a really cool question. And so I started writing, and then I was like, why further my carpal tunnel syndrome? In terms of being man alone, these hands, they're like Tom Brady's arm. If I injure these hands, like you can't watch a video of me being like, I gotta be dexterous. I gotta be strong. I do grip exercises every day, go. And so I thought, hey, why not 2 birds with 1 stone and make a short video about it? Because I have learned so much, but in my usual style, rather than planning this video in advance, I am going to sort of freestyle it. And maybe I can use a table fable here to motivate me. By the light of the sacred stars. That's a magic ritual generator. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to directly go off that, or maybe I will. Yeah, okay. I'm sort of inspired by that. I'm thinking constellations, star maps, guides. So why don't we start there? What I've learned about this is that um, a lot of, much like a constellation in the sky, downvote if I'm reaching. Oh, by the way, that's the thing. If at any time during this video you would like to add something, I would like to know what all of you have learned. Let Raf know about that as well. That would be really cool to hear from you. Thinking about a constellation, connecting the dots. One thing I've learned is that lots of solo games are in conversation with each other. There was an essay I read one time about what people love about reading. And one of the ideas presented in that essay really blew me away. And that idea, and I think it was from Venkatesh Rao, who used to be like a prolific Quora writer, but said the authors reading literature becomes even more interesting when you realize that like all of the great authors are having a conversation with each other. They're all like responding to each other through time. And you, by reading, a great book, a book that has stood the test of time, you are then like not only observing this conversation, you are now a part of this conversation. And because solo gaming, I feel, is in this really interesting period right now, there is a dialogue going on. And some game creators could stand to get more involved in that dialogue. I mentioned in my Moria review video for One Ring that I think that Free League they're one of the major game companies. I know they're not Wizards of the Coast, but it's hard to say. Look at the IPs they have: Blade Runner, Alien, One Ring, or Lord of the Rings, Walking Dead, Electric State. They are doing a really good job of not only providing solo rules, because providing solo rules is not for nothing. Like, that's really nice, but there is a way to present solo rules in your big old game book that are very boilerplate, right? And I do feel that Free League is improving. They're using people to create these that are involved in not just like the tabletop field, but solo gaming. And that the interaction between different books is heightening, and it is allowing this conversation to happen, which is allowing an evolution to happen. And one thing that really tickled me about Raf's email was to say, it's fascinating to see how many folks requested a solo version. I hope it lives up to what they're looking for. And yeah, I think maybe I'm so glad that you included a solo option for this, and I'm also glad that you are surprised about it, because I think that this is like a warning to all game makers out there that if you put anything that indicates that it could be played on its own, we are going to descend, like solo players are going to descend on it like a pack of hyenas, and just rip it apart to be like, one player, you could play this with one player. How do you do it? What's it like? Are there specific instructions? Do I have to abstract it? What about this? It doesn't say what to do here. What do I do here? Right. And I think what you're going to find is that that makes sense to me to say. It's fascinating to see how many folks requested a solo version. That is so heartening to me. And I hope that going through it, look, like if you are surprised by it, that means that you're in a position to learn something about how solo players evaluate games, how they enjoy them, the sorts of things they're looking for. And it's a gradual process. Like, maybe in the next game you consider, an even more evolved solo set. And that doesn't mean you have to like cater specifically to solo players. It also doesn't mean that people who are solo players are not also group players. I mean, I am a group player, GM, and I solo play. So that conversation is definitely something that you only understand it when you immerse yourself enough in the books, and especially reading solo books that you're not even that fond of, to understand that part of the conversation. It can be very enlightening to see where the idea of mechanics come from. Sometimes mechanics come from other games that have good ideas, and sometimes they come from games that have incomplete ideas that another person says, you know what, this would be really cool if it went a step further and really allowed me to do this, or this, right? And that is the dialogue that is going to be a nuclear reactor of ideas, and it's what's going to allow to move us into whatever the next phase of solo role playing will be. Sometimes games that are not even solo games have things to say. I think one thing that I can't stop thinking about is in Pendragon, there is this mechanic baked into the game where in between sessions you can do like solo tasks. So if you miss a session, you can bring yourself up to speed by playing through some of these solo scenarios. As I stated in the other video, I think most of these are like to be played between you and the GM, but still, to have a whole section here on solo scenarios, that is heartening to me, because it means that there are mechanics there that can be taken and watered and fertilized and grow into something new. The second thing I have learned more broadly about people who play solo games, or people in general, is that people are hungry for hobbies that are meaningful and productive and not easy. I think that one of the surprising things that maybe businesses are surprised about is that people do not just want to be bucket fed everything. Like their plan for a Wall-E future of us on floating recliner chairs and drinking Slurpees and eating from troughs. The one problem with that is that that sort of approach to everything in life leads to despair, despondence, and I feel like more and more people are feeling a crisis of meaning. They're feeling despondent because they're not making things anymore. They're not creating things because there's a bunch of companies and a bunch of you just need ride in a subway in every major city to see all of these little flyers, these ads for treats. There's just treats everywhere. Oh, how about this? Like, it's been a long day at work. Why don't you have us deliver you alcohol? Or like, hey, if you put in this promo code, we're going to send you this box every month. And it's just got like man treats in it. Don't you love bacon and beards and bourbon? And, you know, when this stuff first started emerging around like 2009, 10, people were really excited about it because we're like, hell yeah, the future's coming. You know, this is what we always wanted. And as time went on, of course, as with any good thing, when it becomes a hyper corporatized egregore that is just like self-propelling, there's no room for nuance. It's all like, oh, you like one of these? Well, how about 10 of them? If you like 10 of them, how about 100? And what's happening is like we're being spoon-fed, and this is causing a crisis of meaning because we are having less jobs that we are directly involved with what we're making. I suppose that some people giving a cultural critique or a social political critique would say we are alienated from the fruits of our labor. But even more so, there are so many email jobs now for a rapidly expanding like class of college graduates that there are no spaces for. So you just have these like email jobs that tons of people have, where you work for 8 hours. Your job is to like navigate internecine social conflicts. And at the end of the day, you feel both exhausted and as if you didn't do anything. And because of that, people are looking for hobbies that allow them to create things with and allow them to use their imagination, but not in a way that is a passive escapism. People are tired of scrolling all day. People are tired of letting other people live their lives for them. You know, how much reality TV could people stomach, or whatever it is now, of just saying like, oh, well, my life is trash and it's meaningless, so I'll just watch other people whose lives actually matter. People are not satisfied with this, and they're hungry for things that engage their mind and allow them to produce something, to hold something, to say something is mine, even if it's, functionally meaningless in the world. We're not selling our play reports. And so I think most, and I often say this, your lizard brain doesn't really know the difference between like constructive work and or let's say purposeful survival work and work of any other kind. And so whenever you create something, your mind is not like, oh, well, you created something, but it's only like a doily. And so that doesn't really matter. You didn't really need that. You should have built something like a steamboat or something like that. Our lizard brain doesn't quantify like that. Our lizard brain just goes, oh, thing, you made thing. Now you have thing. Ah, you made thing yourself. Shiny thing, love thing. Good boy, you made thing, right? And this is the thing that, how many times can I say thing in a sentence? It promotes feelings of self-ownership and improves self-esteem, and also maintains those faculties of the mind that desire to be creative rather than allowing other people to be creative for them. I also think that people are tired of waiting to find the right time with other people, because another consequence of social technology is that it has made very flaky people. And this is not like just a Gen Z or millennial critique. This has happened with everyone. Everybody has somewhere to go, but nobody is arriving anywhere. We get to places and we immediately immerse ourselves in our phone to start thinking about the next place. We're never there. And this is a sort of a kind of manic ambulation that makes us feel unhinged. It makes us feel as though we have no safety in our spot. There's no roots, proverbial roots growing out of us into the earth. And that kind of thing makes you feel like you're subletting the whole earth. Have you ever subletted an apartment and it's like, it's cool because it's furnished and stuff and your buddy's letting you live there for like 3 months, but you can't like bring in your own sofa. You can't hang up a poster on the wall because it's his apartment. That's how it feels sometimes in this entire world these days. Like nothing is ours. Everything we want is there. The sofa's there. He's even got one of those cool like water coolers that you could put but it's not yours. It's somebody else's. It's on loan, or it's very consumable and it's gone very quickly. It's fleeting and ephemeral. And so people want things that root them, and solo play feels very rooting. It is a generative task that you do on your own. It is purposeful. It is challenging. It is at times unsatisfying. Like you are almost taking a risk on some playthroughs, because you'll have some playthroughs sometimes where you're like, that wasn't my best, or like that wasn't where I wanted it to go. But we love that. We love that kind of stuff, right? Not to get into too much of like cosmicism, but there is this notion of like, if you were a god, you would create paradise for yourself, right? If you figured out that you had omnipotence, you would create paradise, and you would la 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 around paradise until you were finally like, hey, this is great and all, but like nothing happens here. It's always good. It's always sunny. And so you'd start introducing like little challenges. And then finally you would realize that, well, yes, this is very comfortable. You need to sort of banish yourself from the Garden of Eden and go out into the cursed earth to farm it. And even more so, the last omnipotent thing that you do is like make yourself forget that you're omnipotent. And if you kept creating more and more nuanced challenges for yourself, and realize that like the unpredictability and the inability to plan and the inability to know, all of these things are ultimately, you would eventually get to the exact life that you have now, right? You would have that level of complicatedness. You would have that level of strangeness. And again, like we have so many treats available to us. We are I know that things are hard, so I'm not saying that everybody has the same level of this, but it is one of the weirder things about at least the West is like, nobody has any money, but we all complain about paying $34 for a DoorDash order. Like, how is it that like we're all ordering from DoorDash? I know that not everybody is, but some people are buying bags of rice, because they have a kid or whatever. So I'm not trying to be like too all encompassing with my approximations here about what people are experiencing, but by and large, we've been stripped of a lot of things that keep us safe and settled and grounded, and replace them with like little dispensers of treat pebbles. And I think because of this, there is generally a feeling of like not wanting the easy treat anymore, or like wanting to create challenges, wanting to create obstacles, and making yourself forget. And the way we make ourselves forget is, for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I say, I'm not man alone. I'm actually Sir Jorma, and I've got to learn. I'm a squire, and I've got to become a page, or maybe it's the other way around. We'll find out in the next Pendragon session. And we want challenges that feel satisfying, because the challenges we're presented now, they feel very nihilistic. This happens. Especially, I'm thinking of one job I had a few years ago where it was like, I had so many stressful interactions, and at the end of the day, I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything for anyone. I didn't make the world better. I didn't even make a single person's life better. So what was all this for? Like, what was all that movement for? And the answer is paycheck. And that's the breaks, or the bricks. What is it? Whatever. Like, that's how it goes, is that as much BS that we get pumped into our head by high school counselors about like, what do you love? What's your passion? All this is that like most people don't love their jobs. Okay. Like most people do not wake up, stretch, and be like, another day of working at my boutique New York style bagel shop where I import the water from New York. And that's something I learned the other day, is that it's why a New York bagel tastes unique. It has Hudson River water or something. Maybe not Hudson. I don't know. Anyways, or I work doing my passion of public relations for a philanthropy firm. I mean, I just don't got it. Like, I'm just not a person that's got that. I'm blue collar. I grew up blue collar, working class, and my whole life I've been suspicious of the idea of like that you just it is like ordained that the whole game of life is to live your passion, when more like most people just aren't able to. There's just not enough jobs like that available. And so most of us, we do something we're pretty good at and that we can tolerate, and then we create little spaces of heaven for ourselves. And solo gaming is my space, my little slice of paradise. And it is like this secret defense that I have against the absurdity, right? Because I love it. And so when I have someone at work that is very bought into the whole commotion, the whole like, oh, this is really important and we've got to do this and it's so vital. Again, there's important jobs out there. So I'm just saying like the email job kind of stuff that in my head, I know like, okay, I'll play this game because I got to make ends, but this is what I love. It's just for me. Like the thing that I love and the thing that makes me feel inspired and makes me laugh and makes me excited. That thing is like behind my own personal paywall. Consider joining SEAL Team Waffle Alpha for $3.99 a month. That is something that's like the last inch of myself, and it's inviolable. And so I'll play along because I'm holding on to that. And I think one of the reasons people get so excited about solo gaming is because they're desperate to find something that is not a distraction. Like there's something about solo play that is not a distraction. It's an investment. And I wish I can scratch the itch here of like the genus species definition that I'm trying to zero in on. But there is something about solo play that feels like something that is good. It feels like the type of activity that is good for a human. It is a way to water the human plant. And people go wild over this. And it's so funny because it's not like we can't see it, or at least it's not like I can't see it. There was somebody who posted on I was just trying to look up some rules and stuff on Pendragon, and I went to the subreddit. And somebody was like, hey, quick question. Am I too into Pendragon? Because I spent all weekend thinking about it and I made like this coat of arms and I drew my knight and I started thinking about everyone in the court. And it's like, yes, that's too much and also awesome, right? Because what else am I going to spend my time thinking about? Am I going to think about Quentin in marketing, who's like uses too many exclamation points in his emails, or Genevieve, who uses the weird font? I'd rather not. I would prefer not to, right? And then when I'm doing this, I do recognize that it's kind of absurd, right? To get so into something that it's like, okay, why are you doing it? And I think a lot about the pipeline that I came into tabletop with, which was Magic the Gathering to miniature wargaming to tabletop. But interestingly, there was a step before this, which was tabletop. I went from it was when I was in the early stages of my sobriety, and I was just like, all right, I'll give hobbies a shot again, because I needed something to do on a Friday night. And so I was like, all right, well, I haven't gone to this game store in a long time. Let me try it out. And I remember going, and I think it was 4th edition at the time of D&D. I picked it up off the shelf and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested in this at all. But then I saw MTG, and I had played it a little bit when I was younger. And I also played a game that I don't know if any of you remember called Marvel Overpower. I wonder if it's still around. Um, I never played Pokemon or anything like that. That was not a little bit after my era, but I was like, okay, I can get in on this. And I had a few friends that played it. And so we started playing, and we even made fun of tabletop a little bit because we'd be like, I don't get it. Like, what's the point? There's no objective way to win. It's all just like imagination. In Magic, when you win, when you've lost, etc. But I remember this weird moment of, I was the only one in the group that would say, like, gosh, I love the flavor text on that, or like, I love the picture on that card. And people would be like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but like, they didn't care. They didn't know like anything about Jace. And I would like read about planeswalkers and things like that, and nobody cared. And I realized, like, to a lot of people, these cards are just numbers, or like logic games, and it doesn't really matter what's on them. And I wanted to know these stories. And suddenly the criticisms that I had, oh Lord, cancel. The criticisms that I had started to be like, I started to see those as absurd when I said, oh, there's no objectivity there. And I was like, so what do I need that for? Mostly, in Magic, my objective outcome was that I lost, or I felt angry. I would finish sentence feeling like angry, like I wanted to win so bad. And I quit Magic because I played. I have a lot of love for Magic and a lot of love for people that play it, but it was Wizards of the Coast. It was just, they're too greedy. And I played Arena a lot online, and that started feeling like a slot machine. I just couldn't do it anymore. So I had to stop completely. And then I said, oh, great. Like, what do I do now? And that's when I went into Warhammer. But if you're in miniatures or you're in Magic, you're just going to keep interfacing with tabletop. And eventually it just hit me the right way. It just, like, I saw these at my local game store, there's like these indie books and these solo games. And for the first time, there was like something that I was like, yeah, I can do that, because it was really hard to find anybody to play tabletop with. And I had tried going to like meetups around my city and stuff, and people were just not taking it seriously. And I then felt, or it was like almost too invested too early. Like, I didn't want to go from not playing to like LARPing in the middle of a public park. But then I would go to play these one-shot games, and A, I wanted them to keep going, and B, it was like kind of the post I made today. It just felt like everything was a wink wink joke. And I was like, no, I really want to immerse here. I really want to find out what happens. And I think a lot of you have the same path, where solo play provided an opportunity to do that, and to say, okay, well, maybe even like I'd prefer to play with other people, but I just can't find it, and I don't have time, or I'm not in a place where that's going to happen. And so I'll just play on my own. And the most exciting thing in that early phase, which leads me to say the things I did about like what people are hungry for, is I was so excited to be the audience for somebody's creativity, and to create something that you're like, here you go. I will never find out if you played this. I will never find out if you liked it, but I hope you have fun, and I made something fun for you. And the coolest part is, I I don't even have any demands of how it needs to go for you. So what have I learned about the industry, I guess you might say, is that I think that there is a strong collector impulse with solo players. That like one of the, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on like the life phases in the first year of becoming a solo player, like some of these rites of passage or milestones that almost all of us hit, which is, I can't put them in order right now, but let me say a few that I'm thinking of. One of them is like, why would anyone do this? This is so stupid. And then it's like, well, I guess I'll check it out. And then there's a phase that's like, I don't know how to do this. What am I supposed to be doing? Like, what am I supposed to get out of this? And then there's a phase that might be my favorite where you keep buying stuff, but you never play it. And then you start to feel guilty. And I almost, I have some videos on how to overcome that phase, but really it's your own journey at the end of the day. But I also feel like it's a necessary part of the journey, because I think it requires in some way admitting to yourself that you just love having it. You love the possibility of what it can be. And you're just not going to get to the next step for everything. This is not a solo game, but I think about this all the time. Here, it's right over here, actually. I pass Troika, Numinous Edition, all the time. And I'm always just like, look at this wackadoo, beautiful bastard of a book that is just like... And I love this. You go into it, doesn't even tell you the game, and I think it's the first. There's D66. So what is it? The first 30. The first 40 pages are just characters, and then it hits the rules on page 40. I've never played Troika, and so I can sit here and be like, "What a waste!" I waited so long for this to get delivered from Melsonian Arts Council, and I know there's different supplements for it now, and I think there might be a zine or something like that, and there's so many people that love it and recommend it, and the art is just unbelievable. And I know there are people who solo it and everything, and yet I've never done anything with it. Nirvana is like being able to be like, cool, that's okay. I love having it. And one day I'm going to love lending it. And one day I'm going to love giving it to somebody, like a friend or a nephew or a niece or a dog, a good dog that's interested, who says, what is that? That game is so cool. And then I get to do the ultimate thing, which is like, you want it? It's like, yeah, but I don't know if like I should buy. It's like, no, you can have that one, but you got to play it. And they're like, really? It's like, yeah. Do you want to play it? Yeah, I want to play it. It's like, okay, well then you're going to take this and you're going to teach me how to play it. And then we're going to play together. Right. That's like, you just don't know something this special. You just don't know what kind of incredible things can happen from it. So that's my answer. It's meandering. But if it's the first time watching the channel, Raf, this is probably what your review of your game is going to kind of look like as well. So hope that answered your question. I'm not sure if I did answer it, but I'm also not sure if there is one. Okay, bye. Troika is amazing, though. Look at this thing. It's beautiful. Just love it. Oh, crap.